Alright, my name is Bradley Ferraro. I am going to be talking to you guys today about a project. Let me pull up my thing here. A research project that I did. I am starting a YouTube channel, hopefully kind of the beginning of an adventure, follow Bradley on his wild land and sea adventures type channel. But for an English class, I had a research project, and I decided to go with the benefits and detriments of teaching, educating children on a sailboat, and kind of what comes along with that, lifestyle benefits and detriments, the ability for the child to interact socially. And so in my research, I had to find a couple of academic sources, and those led me some pretty interesting places. A lot of it was more homeschool based research. I kind of went into how parents come to the decision, the ideology behind it, other possible reasons, religious or purely academic reasons for homeschooling, and then what making that choice implies for your future, and kind of steps for handling how your future is going to get more complicated in the future. So during my project, I researched for about 30 hours, read all kinds of interesting stories about people raising kids on sailboats, watched videos of kids talking about their experiences and talking about what they liked, what they didn't like. School, for instance, is much shorter during the day. If you're just educating a couple of children, it's a lot easier. So you don't need 6 hours a day to teach them the same amount of material. You can move faster. You can teach them ahead of their grade. If they're academically up to it, they can learn at whatever rate they want. And so those are a few benefits of the education. I'm going to tell you, so at the end of the research project, I had 5 of my resources annotated. I wrote the rhetorical précis for those, and I'm actually going to attach that when I upload the video. So if you want to go check out some of the more vital sources in my research, and kind of read my general description of them, and then the websites are linked, so you can check those out if you want to. You can absolutely just click on that link, and I have a kind of a research paper introduction there as well if you are interested in reading that. Just kind of an overview and me getting started in the whole field of education about this. But today I'm not going to cover those 5. I'm going to cover some of the other things that I found that I put in my synthesis matrix. So, one that I want to start with, a lot of these sources are going to be not ones that I used because they weren't specific about maybe the detriments or benefits of education, which was more the core of my project, but really interesting things that I learned along the way, and kind of just my journey in the research, and things that if you're interested in sailing or living on a sailboat, raising kids on a sailboat, these are awesome things to check out. So we're going to start with this girl, Laura Decker, who I kind of fell in love with because she's so cool. I've watched all of her videos now. She's teaching sailing in New Zealand, but years ago she was 14, and she was the youngest person ever to sail all the way around the world, to circumnavigate the globe, starting in Holland and going down through the Panama Canal, jumping across to Australia and India, and then around Africa and back up. The adventures that she went through, kind of her talking about at the age of 14, which would be the beginning of high school, what she learned about culture and about the mechanics of her boat and navigation, the mathematics that she had to do, just all of this dense life relevant education that maybe you wouldn't be getting at that age in school. And I think she really kind of inspired me to see a lot of the benefits, because it can be really scary for a lot of parents to begin homeschooling their children. But Laura Decker is a great example of all the good things that it can bring. Up next, this is actually just a really cool resource. I found a website called coreknowledge.org, which is everything K through 8 in every subject that you need to meet the American educational standards. So basically, if you don't know what to do, or if you feel unsure about lesson plans, or you think that your child is missing something while you're teaching them on a sailboat, just check out this website, go to their grade, go to where they should be at in their grade, and obviously living on a sailboat, you're going to teach biology in the water or on the islands that you land on. But you can just make sure that you're also covering all the things that a regular education would cover along the way too, so that your kid isn't missing out on anything education-wise. And that Core Knowledge, I think, is a really awesome resource for that. Let's see. This was a really interesting website. And I know I said that I wasn't going to talk about things listed in my annotated resources, but I really like this homeschool website because it's one of my academic studies that is going into depth on why so many parents in India are wanting to take their kids out of school more and more, the problems that are arising with public education, and just a million or a few well-described, well-documented reasons that maybe it's not just an alternative choice, but sometimes a necessity to homeschool your children. And that is kind of the other side of this whole research project, is that I'm finding there's not a whole lot of research on homeschool in general, but the trend is going up exponentially currently. And so we don't really know what we're jumping into, but a lot of people are deciding to move to this, whether, like I said, in certain countries, and probably in the States too, sometimes out of necessity, or for academic, religious, or ideological reasons, whatever it may be. The transition is happening quickly. So it was really interesting for me to get some good research on this and think proactively about my future in the topic. Move on here. Oh, a really interesting paper that I found that I just couldn't find the right way to explain it from my annotated resources. But I was really sad that I didn't include it, because it is a academic study. It's fairly short because it's really specific. It's done for 9 to 13-year-old school children, and it is done on the benefits of, it's called dinghy sailing, so these smaller sailboats that these kids go to a camp and they sail, and they were observed their attitude towards each other and towards themselves and towards life in general and education, and they found that while being on the water, you have to work together. You have to, when there are people around and there's something that somebody needs immediately, no one is standing back and waiting for someone else to do it. because everything's more urgent in the water. And I've seen this in so many of the videos too, just this kind of culture that everybody talks about, where if somebody is in need in the boating world, then somebody's always going to say yes to helping them out. And it was interesting because they actually kind of saw this with children more, where doing activities on land, they were much less likely to jump up and help each other, especially from 9 to 13. They're kind of leaving young childhood learning how to feel socially awkward, sort of. But when it was in the water, there's a precedent, there's a mandate to help. Another thing that the study said is that it generally decreased the gender prejudice at that age, which is another thing. At that age, boys and girls are very aware of their differences from 9 to 13, and outsailing, that goes away to a certain degree. And they saw it especially with children, increased self-esteem and physical health, obviously. And I thought that was such a cool study. Let me grab the book that I keep by my bedside. This is, unfortunately, I ordered this book too late for my paper, but I'm so excited about it. It's called Voyaging with Kids, and it's pretty dense, but it's basically these 3 sailors that were parents who educated their children on boats for years, came together, they were good friends, and they spent a year of their life putting together all of their knowledge, and they came up with this amazing book where, let's see if I can find it. They have everything on here from everyday life afloat, activities to keep the children engaged, relationships with your family, how those are going to fluctuate, and how the change in lifestyle is definitely going to change the nature of your relationships. I haven't got to the teens on board yet because I'm still in the younger ages, but they have provisioning, so they have how much food to buy at that age. Just a bunch of really good resources for how to realistically make this a plan, if this is something that you care about or even just think about, and you're starting to think about it and thinking to yourself that's not possible. There are resources out there, and my page isn't going to be entirely about this, although I think it's probably going to be more water-based. I have a sailboat of my own that is kind of my starter boat. I just want to show you a few pictures from my sailing life. This is when my motor died, which another positive to education is things always go wrong. So this is when my motor died on an island. We had to set up this chair. We had to put a rock on it to hook the engine up to, take the motor apart. It took us 5.5 hours. But again, just immediate necessity mandates immediate learning, and I now know how to take apart a motor. This is the front of the boat. Mine is obviously not a liveaboard, it's much smaller, but it takes care of me and my good friend for a few days at a time. This is our little get to shore kayak type thing. There's the boat and an island that we landed on. Just kind of some lifestyle, what it would be like everyday kind of things. There is the boat with the mast up. Definitely get some good physical exercise putting that mast up, because there it is down. You have to attach it and bring it up. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have a great day, guys.